When I, teen male, was a baby, my parents divorced. My dad had been cheating on my mom, and it only came to light because his mistress, my stepmom, got pregnant and made him choose between her and my mom. 9 months and one divorce later, my brother Ethan, now a teen, was born. Needless to say, my mom isn't fond of Ethan. She doesn't hate him, but she doesn't love him either, or want any type of relationship with him. On the semi-frequently time when she sees him, when she picks me up or drops me off at my dad's house, she ignores him. She avoids making eye contact or initiating conversation with him. When he tries to talk to her, she gives short answers and gets us both on our way ASAP. My dad and stepmom have sheltered Ethan from the past family drama, and it's always been frustrating. Still, I figured it wasn't my place to interfere. Because of that, he didn't understand why my mom didn't like him. He thought it was because she hates my dad, a bit true, and is a cold, resentful old hag who can't leave the past behind and is jealous of my stepmom. His words exactly, from 2 years ago, and again, partially true, minus the jealousy, but in my opinion, she has a good reason. Before y'all tell me that my mom lied to me about my dad's affair, he's admitted to everything as I told it when I pressed him for details some years back. Anyway, on to the inciting incident. My mom plans a vacation, and of course I was invited, but she also invited my paternal uncle, who took my mom's side in the family schism that was the affair and divorce, and who still remains close friends with her to this day, and his kids. When Ethan found out that his cousins were invited on vacation, but not him, he broke down and came to me, asking why my mom hated him so much. He actually broke down crying. I felt so bad for him. I decided that he deserved to know the truth. I tried to break the truth as gently as I possibly could, but there's really no good way to tell a sobbing kid that he's the result of cheating, and that's why my mom never wanted a relationship with him. The good side is that he wasn't crying anymore or mad at my mom. The bad side is that he was really angry at his parents. Well, I had to leave for vacation. I'm actually writing on the flight, LOL, and my dad and stepmom have been blowing up my phone. They're furious at me for telling him before he was ready. I told my mom the situation, and she told me that that was kind of a jerk move because I dropped a bomb and then left them to clean up the mess. Ethan isn't exactly emotionally mature, and considering the fury that I last saw him in, I wouldn't want to deal with that cluster mess either. Now, I think I may have undermined my dad and stepmom's parenting, and maybe I should have waited until after I got back so that I could help prevent the implosion that's going on back home. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and it seems like the parents are the ones who weren't ready. They were happy to crap talk your mom to Ethan. Where do you think Ethan got that she was a cold, resentful hag from? I'd be willing to bet stepmom and or dad refer to her in that way. They never would have told him the truth. It was easier to paint your mom as the bad guy instead of revealing they have been all along. Of course, that phrase comes from them. It's not something a kid comes up with on their own. It's very much something that a jealous, bitter woman would say. For example, a homewrecker who's disappointed that the husband she stole from another woman isn't up to her standards and might possibly still be carrying a torch for the love of his life, which he will forever regret losing because he couldn't just keep it in his pants. Just saying. Yeah, I'm an avid reader and have been since elementary school. I wouldn't have come up with old hag. I would have called her a witch. And he isn't ready? It's been over 13 years. They were never going to tell him, and now he knows anyway. I have a hard time imagining anyone's parents sitting them down to say, yeah, so I just wanted to let you know, I knocked your mom up while I was married to OP's mom. It blew up my marriage, and that's why she doesn't want to be super friendly with you. They never intended to tell, because it's much easier to say, I don't know, son, she's just jealous. Your dad and stepmom absolutely deserve it. This is the consequence of their choices. Oh, who would have thought that people willing to have an affair would be so self-centered? Also, if your dad and stepmom had really wanted to keep him protected, They could have made up a nicer version of the truth, instead of letting the boy think he was hated by his brother's mom for no reason. They only thought about themselves. So this cluster mess is entirely theirs to deal with, rightfully. My female 30 husband is typically the one to do the school run on his way back from work, but he's got a nasty sinus infection, so I took over. My daughter, pre-tween, has a new classmate. I haven't met their parents yet. When I got there, a group of moms I know was standing there waiting for the kids, and I joined them. The new kid's mom was there as well. I got there, we chatted and got acquainted, and she asked what I did for a living. I said that I ran a small business from home. I genuinely do. I handmake jewelry and sell on platforms such as Etsy or Amazon and make more than I ever did in my corporate job. Her answer shocked me. So you're on benefits then? My mouth dropped and I said, no, I run my own business. She said she knew my type and I was just lying to not look bad. Upper middle class neighborhood. I told her to mind her own business. She called me a scrounger and an idiot without manners. I removed myself from the situation. When I was leaving with my daughter, I heard one of the other moms telling her that I was really successful. I wished I'd turned around to see her face. Now I'm thinking about this and I feel bad. It wasn't my proudest moment, and I feel that I've made school runs awkward for my husband now. Am I the idiot? Because if so, I'll have to apologize. Not the idiot. She disrespected you first. All you did was stand up for yourself. Good for you. She was super out of line. You should probably warn your husband, though, that mom sounds like an entitled troublemaker, so he should know what happened in case she tries to start some nasty gossip or confront him about it randomly. I would casually bring it up to your daughter's teacher as well. Ask if your daughter's getting along with the new kid. You want to make sure your girl's being kind because you and the other mom had a confrontation and you don't want the girls to pick up on it. Something like that. Come from the position that you're concerned about how your daughter's behaving. As a teacher myself, believe me, they will want to know. I put my money on that mom telling her kid that you and your family are mean. The kid might internalize this and be unkind to your daughter at school. Any knowledge we can get about what goes on for kids outside of school is helpful for what goes on inside the school. Do not apologize. New mom stuck her foot in her mouth. She should apologize to you. Oh, and she may have something tart to say about your husband being unemployed or a kept man or who knows what. I roll my eyes, since he's doing most of the school runs with all the moms. OP, you're far from the idiot here. Be prepared for more of this down the line. She's gonna stir up crap for all of you. I guarantee you. She didn't stick her foot in her mouth, which suggests that she was accidentally offensive. That woman was deliberately mean and classist, and there was absolutely nothing accidental about her remarks. Also, I think she likes OP's husband. I would be careful around her. Seems dangerous. Over the past few weeks, I've been quite sick. Yesterday morning, I woke both my boyfriend, Jake, and myself up with a coughing fit. So I decided to go to the doctor that morning. The doctor said that there was some inflammation in my throat, so he prescribed me penicillin over the next few days. I had no problem with taking this, but I did know that Jake is allergic to penicillin. Once I got my meds, I called him to tell him where I would keep it so that he could stay away from it. He told me that it couldn't be in the apartment and I couldn't take it around him because he was deathly allergic to it. He said I should get rid of it and take pain meds to get better on my own instead. I suggested that I stay at my parents' house for the next few days while I'm taking my meds. He said that we'd talk about it when he got home, but until then, I either needed to get rid of them or leave them in my car without taking them. But I wanted to take them before 7 hours for him to come home. I decided to just go to my parents' house because I wanted to take them, and I'd probably go there later after we talked. When I got to my parents', I stayed in bed for the rest of the day and fell asleep at some point. I woke up around 5 a.m. to numerous calls and texts from Jake and some mutual friends asking where I was. I waited a while before calling Jake back. He asked where I was, and when I answered, He angrily told me that it was disrespectful of me to leave without waiting for him to discuss this, and that I was making a big situation by ignoring his calls last night. I tried to explain to him that I wasn't ignoring him, that I was sick, that I had fallen asleep at my parents', and that I didn't think it would be a big deal because I had already suggested it to him yesterday. He said that he didn't remember me telling him this, and that he was calling friends all last night, asking if they knew where I was, that it was suspicious that I had been distant with him for the past few weeks, just to disappear last night. I may be the idiot for this part, but I told him that it's not my fault that he didn't remember me telling him this, and that he knew that I'd been feeling unwell over the past few weeks, which explains why I was distant. I then said that he was ridiculous, as there was no way having penicillin in the same apartment as him would even cause any problem if he stayed away from it. After this, he said I was being the idiot for belittling him and not taking his allergies seriously. He told me to just stay with my parents for the next while until he was ready to talk again before hanging up, and he's not answering any of my calls since. As I've been stuck in the bed thinking about it, part of me just feels like I might have been too stubborn, and I could have avoided all of this by waiting a couple of hours or trying to get better without the antibiotics. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your boyfriend is controlling as heck. I've never heard of a penicillin allergy so severe that being around someone else on the meds would affect them. If that were the case, he should have been fine with you staying with your parents. It's not his place to tell you you should go without, so there was nothing to discuss. It also sounds like he made a big deal of you going to your parents by calling all your friends. I'm not really buying that he didn't hear you. Then he tried to blame you for the big deal he created. Yeah, and also, why didn't he ring her parents while he was doing the phone around? Because he knew that's where she was, and he couldn't create a ton of drama if he found her immediately. She needs to find a better partner. It seems all he wanted to do was fight with her. I think he's a drama queen. Also, he won't break up with her because he's too much of a coward, so he's creating fights and making his friends think that she's off somewhere and up to unreasonable shenanigans. Yeah, this dude is whack. OP, make sure you let your friends know what went on. Don't let them think you've just this tendency to disappear. And girl, leave this man. Sometimes you don't have a choice but to take antibiotics. He isn't a doctor and shouldn't be telling you to ignore medical help. I'm getting married in a few weeks. My bachelorette party is this weekend. We'll be spending the weekend out at the wineries and other activities. My soon-to-be husband's younger sister is one of my bridesmaids. A few weeks ago, when we discussed the bachelorette party, she told us she wouldn't attend it. She gave no real reason other than she didn't know anyone very well and didn't want to take the days off work. Pretty much, she just didn't want to come. After everything was booked, it came to about $600 a person. My maid of honor sent sister-in-law a Venmo request for her portion since she is still part of the wedding party. Sister-in-law sent a message to the group text, trying to understand why she would be expected to pay. We informed her that as part of the wedding party, it's expected to help pay for the bachelorette. She didn't have a real reason she couldn't come. She just didn't want to. Of course, that doesn't get her off the hook for the responsibilities she signed up for. Now that the trip is tomorrow, the other bridesmaids are angry they had to pull out money to cover the sister-in-law's portion. I sent her a message explaining what comes along with being a bridesmaid and asking her to please send my maid of honor the money because she's putting a downer on the weekend and ruining it. I've not heard back, and the bridesmaids are super angry that they're out of the money. You are the idiot. I'm sorry, but let me get this straight. You're demanding $600 from her for what exactly? She said she didn't want to go on the trip weeks ago and seemed intent on keeping her word. How are you out money when you shouldn't have planned for her to be part of the trips? And what the heck are you doing that costs $600 a person? I hosted a 2-day bachelorette party for my friend that included a 5-star hotel and multiple events. It cost $200 a person. $600 is ridiculous for wineries, food, and Ubers. She's a bridesmaid. Her responsibilities are to show up at your wedding, buy an ugly dress she'll never wear again, and stand next to you with the others. She has no obligation to be involved in your extracurricular activities at all. Your maid of honor's foolish for making plans that assumed a certain number of participants chipping in without taking into account which could or would attend. Absolutely, the ugly dress with matching shoes and jewelry that don't match anything else. But the audacity to plan it after she already said she couldn't go, and the OP wouldn't accept it as a valid reason, and then basically sending her a bill. What entitled BS? She doesn't owe the OP anything, which is a horrible way to treat someone whose family the OP is joining. I wonder if the bride charges guests for dinner if they RSVP no. OP, perhaps she chose not to come because she can't afford to pay $600. However, people do need to buy food and pay bills. It's also weird that you made your bridesmaids cover the difference. You shouldn't be planning things that you can't afford. You're being ridiculous. Yesterday, we celebrated my male 23 girlfriend's 21st birthday. Her parents threw a big celebration party with all her friends and family. Personally, this was the first time I met anyone in her family except for her parents. It was also her first birthday I celebrated with her since we've been dating for about 7 months. I'm originally from Romania, but I've been living abroad for 11 years. My girlfriend mentioned at some point that one of her grandmothers was also from Romania, but we didn't discuss it in detail. So yesterday, I met my girlfriend's grandmother, and what can I say? I couldn't believe how small the world was. She was not only Romanian, but also from the same county as me. So we talked and talked a lot. She told me her life story. I really enjoyed the conversation, especially talking in my native language. And that's how I spent most of the party. Of course, when my girlfriend asked me to take photos with her, or when the cake came, I gave her my full attention. But for the most part, she spent time with her friends, dancing, drinking, etc., while I was talking with her grandmother. I didn't pay it much mind, but after the party was done, she told me she felt neglected by me during her birthday, and this morning she seemed angry at me. Am I the idiot for mostly ignoring my girlfriend on her birthday? Not the idiot. I would personally be charmed if my partner got on so well with my grandmother and spoke to her all night in her first language. I'm old though, so maybe I expect different things from a partner than a freshly minted adult does. A partner who engages with my family and makes them feel important and special is lovely. And honestly, I would also be so delighted to see my partner happy, talking about their home, and getting the chance to speak to someone who understands them in their language of origin. Hanging out with their grandmother at her birthday party is actually sweet. Gonna go against the grain and say you are the idiot. If she had to pull you away to do pics or cake, then that should have been your hint to spend some time with her. It's nice you connected with her grandmother, but she probably wanted her boyfriend to also be drinking, dancing, and talking to her and her friends on her 21st birthday. Going off to speak to a grandma in a language she can't understand for hours straight is not exactly normal party behavior. Your intentions were good, but you should apologize and try to be more mindful of how you split up your time, especially at an event in your partner's honor. She could have used her words if she wanted more of OP's attention. I'm sure her grandmother wouldn't have minded her borrowing you for a dance or two. I feel she's overreacting. Everyone was there for her, so you being by her side the entire time shouldn't have been necessary. I'd be darned happy if my boyfriend got close to my gammy. Hopefully she'll calm down.